Side. Yes, I giving thanks. Today is the day that we celebrate the birth of our fearless Lord, His Majesty, Haile Selassie, the first of Ethiopia. He was born this day 125 years ago in the province of Harar, Ethiopia, on the Gregorian calendar, which falls 7 years and 8 months after the Julian calendar, July 23rd, 1892. After his mother had attempted to have 8 children before him who had died. He was born into nobility on his father's side, both his father's father and his father's mother. His father, Ras Makonnen, having fought bravely to defeat the foreign invasion of 1896, the Italians, was said to be completely trusted by King Menelik. Liege Tafari, meaning prince without fear, was a man-child, an expert horseman, an original Abyssinian. He was challenged at 10 years old as he fell off his horse by his rival cousin, Liege Yasu, to a race where he humbly got on his horse and galloped in triumph. At 13, he was given the honor of being a high priest, a Dejamash, in the land. At 14, his father, Ras Makonnen, departed from the earth. He became a governor of Selassie. He continued to judge the people, perform raids on slave traders, and to eliminate the ivory poaching. At 19, Liege Tafari became Ras to be given responsibility over 1 million people, become a governor. He had many enemies. That were attempting to eliminate his rightful rule, to pass it on to his rival, his archenemy Satan. One of them had married the king, Menelik, Taitu. It was her 5th marriage. She began to plot and conspire to take away the crown from His Majesty. His cousin Liege Yasu had a father, Ras Michael, who was married to Menelik's daughter, who also began to plot to take counsel against the king. There was even foreign actors playing through the region of Italy to try to contain Ethiopia and the people therein. They had dined with Liege Yasu. They called his father, Ras Michael, a man who was pleasing, who was of strong character and had many arms. There was an attempt to capture Liege Yasu as he went on his rampage, murdering and pillaging and looting. He even robbed the king, Menelik. And the attempt was intercepted so that he eluded capture. In 1916, at 24 years old, Rastafari becomes the regent to inherit the authority over the Ethiopian people. He sought to set out a new civilization, one that was free of foreign control and that would eliminate the slave trade, to continue in the traditions of his fathers, to keep his country independent as it had been, even throughout World War I, as the entire continent of Africa was split up and colonized by the European powers. Ieyasu makes a last desperate attempt to control the throne, spreading rumors and gaining followers by unjust means, promising them power and pleasure and prestige. Yes, Rastafari was verbally attacked by the council of ministers, even within his borders, and he said they will sell their soul for money. 1917, there was a battle, another power struggle by one Ras Aimer. Ras Aimer was defeated by Hapta Georges and Ras Kasa. In 1918, Rastafari fell ill to the flu epidemic that had been raging throughout Europe. And yet, by the miracle, he pulled through. In 1923, Rastafari succeeded in entering Ethiopia into the League of Nations. Immediately afterwards, a plot was developed to build a dam at Lake Tana by the British and Italian that was subsequently quelled by His Majesty, as he said, "My people will stand on their native mountains, sovereign." There was an attempted subversion of him at the palace shortly thereafter, whereas the Queen Zaditu locked him in and threatened his life. It was said that Rastafari looked at his people in the eye and walked straight out and requested that the gates be opened, and they were. And then he got on his mule and he rode away. They feared him. They saw it in his eyes. He was a man unlike any other man that deserved the utmost reverence. In 1930, otherwise on the Julian calendar, Megabit 25, 1922, another power struggle ensued. This time it was Ras Gugsa who was again defeated. He used rumors and lies, saying that Rastafari was a product of the Roman Catholic Church and a Jesuit, simply because he had allowed the Roman Catholic Church to come into the land of Ethiopia, and he had been taught as a child French by Roman Catholics. Shortly after Ras Gugsa was eliminated, Empress Zaditu also died, and Rastafari became His Imperial Majesty, Haile Selassie, had taken his Baptist name, meaning the power of the Trinity. And He entered onto the throne on November 2nd, 1930. He gave the people a constitution over Ethiopia. Another escape attempt. Liz Yasu was in custody. He was a royal member. He had done hideous acts. For example, he took a baby and smashed the baby's head on a rock. And when the mother pleaded and cried, he cut the mother's breast off and left her to die. And that was just one example that was witnessed. He had attempted escape. He had been given assistance by one Ras Haile. The escape failed as he was caught by Ras Kasa. Shortly thereafter, Liz Yasu dies at age of 37. A new agreement was then made between the British and the Italians, saying that the Italians could take over Ethiopia, that the British would not intervene so long as that the Italians proved truce with the British and did not attack the British. This was the Hoare-Laval Agreement. The war against Ethiopia began. Even after Ethiopia had entered into the League in 1923, the League provided Ethiopia with no protection when it was invaded by the Italians from the material support, assistance of one Haile Selassie Gubza. We must also keep in mind that the telecommunication line in Ethiopia began at one bishop's house from the Roman Catholic clergy. And therefore, it's quite possible that many of the communications were being intercepted at the time and given into the wrong hands, as had been done in one of the original revolts. As the war began, the Suez Canal, which was being operated by the British, was opened up for Italian weapons to enter into Ethiopia. And the Italians subsequently began bombarding Ethiopia with all their sophisticated weapons of war, as Ethiopia used the old, ancient artifacts to defend their land. Even the Italians resorted to chemical attacks using poison gas to rain onto the people in the land. It was said that every living creature just dissolved, dried up from the acid, their skin. And yet, His Majesty Haile Selassie went out into the forefront of the battle. During the sneak attack, where 400 tons of explosions and 30,000 rounds of ammunition were being rained, along with the mustard gas. And he fought on the forefront with the machine gun to defeat the invasion. It was too much power, earthly power, that His Majesty put it into the hands of the Creator Himself. And he went into the church at La Libelle and prayed and fasted for 48 hours. The Italians had ensued upon Addis Ababa, and all of Ethiopia was in a state of chaos. And yet His Majesty turned guerrilla and went out into the Blue Nile gorges to fight with his partner, Ras Emru. It was then decided among the Rasas that it would be best for His Majesty to go into exile, not only to spare his life, but yet to fight for the cause and the lives of his subjects, the Ethiopians, to the League, in which he did. In 1936, he gave a speech to the League in which he famously declared, "It is us today, it will be you tomorrow." The League backed out from their obligations. The intended purpose was to form an alliance so that if any one of those countries that entered into the League was attacked, that all the other countries would intervene against the aggressor, which did not happen. Shortly after, Tafari, His Majesty Haile Selassie's son, was captured and murdered, along with his comrade Ras Imru, who was not murdered, yet was captured. In exile, His Majesty was involved in a collision, broke his collarbone, yet he still gave his speech immediately after the collision while he was in intense pain on Christmas Day. The Empress was sick from the lack of sun, nature, and so she left to Jerusalem. His Majesty was saddened. It was said that he stayed in bed for days. He called the situation a living image of a violated right, as he saw the foreign powers conspiring to counsel against him and his authority. He was moved to Sudan, where he expected an army to march with him into his homeland to defeat the invasion. But the army was not there. He was given a Zionist to help him, Ord Wingate, said to be a strange character. And in 1941, Selassie re-enters into Ethiopia with the Crown Prince, the Duke of Harar, and Ras Kassa, and tells his people, do not reward evil for evil. We will take the arms of the enemy and return them from where they came. The emperor's 20-year-old daughter died shortly thereafter. He had also lost a daughter early on at the age of 13 and had lost his sons. In 1942, at the resistance of legalists, particularly in Britain, Ethiopia was permitted to enter into the new league called the United Nations. Roosevelt, the President of the United States, met Selassie shortly thereafter. And Selassie began to expand and develop his country, not to put it into the hands of foreign control, yet to understand, overstand the mechanisms and the inner workings of the foreign powers so that he could put into use those practical methods of development. In 1952, Ethiopia regained Eritrea, the country adjacent that once was part of Ethiopia, as Ethiopia once was almost entirely all of what we know is Africa and much of the Middle East in the scriptural days. In 1955, His Majesty had a revised constitution drafted, giving people more rights and eliminating the feudal system of slave trade, allowing for the people to be subjects and not chattel. One person, one vote. A type of true democracy under theocracy, underneath the supreme rule and guidance of His Majesty. There was also an attempted coup where His Majesty was away and his royal bodyguards turned against him. The enemy within even put a gun to his son's head and forced his son to make a declaration over the airwaves. His Majesty returned. The revolt was quelled. In 1962, Queen Minute leaves out. We have little knowledge of the last decade that His Majesty was visible. And yet, we believe His Majesty has accounted for these hours. This was a man that would travel in his car and help those needy individuals, even picking them up off the street in their ravished conditions to escort them to receive free care at one of his hospitals that he had built up. He's a man of law. He's a man of education. He is a man of well-being. He's a man for the people and for life. That's what separates His Majesty from us. Sin. To be free from sin. It's the virtue we possessed. We giving thanks, utmost praise to His Majesty, Haile Selassie, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, as documented to us in Revelation 5, 7, 17, 19. And our sins too will be washed by the blood of the Lamb. Selassie, Ja, Rastafari.